Hello and welcome to the Aid Station. I'm Chris Robb, and today I'm massively excited to be heading to Bangkok in Thailand, where we meet Nichapa Yoswee, who's the Senior Vice President of Business for Thailand Convention and Exhibition Bureau, commonly known as TCEB. Sawadee ka, Nichapa. Lovely to see you again.
สวัสดีค่ะคุณ Rob. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great. We just literally met a couple of weeks ago and had you on a wonderful mass participation world webinar talking about collaboration around the world and in Thailand. And it's an amazing situation in Thailand, which we'll speak about in a little bit more detail later. But I think you were saying you've been 32 days COVID free. But maybe before we get on to that, love to just hear a little bit about your background, please.
Right. Well, I have been in business events industry for more than 30 years. I started my journey in this field with Reed Exhibitions Thailand, where I worked for 23 years. And during my time, Reed organized a World Expo in Horticulture in Thailand, and I was the COO of that project, which, of course, to my delight, it won the first gold medal award of its kind from the Global Host Association. Then I was invited to join the Thailand Convention and Exhibition Bureau when I was the managing director of Reed Exhibitions at the time. And my first task when I joined TCEB is to strategize and formulate MICE capabilities development. So I invented MICE Academy and enforced the ISO standards and sustainability practices in MICE operations. And now I am in charge of the macro strategic marketing and business development.
Wow, what great accolades! A gold medal. That's absolutely fantastic. And obviously, MICE is a huge part of the tourism strategy in Thailand, as is events and mass participation. You've got a vibrant mass participation scene there, which is growing. And I guess one of the things we spoke about, as I mentioned, 32 days COVID free, working on a strategy to bring mass participation events back. And I think quite unique from what I heard there, in that in many parts of the world these alliances are forming in the mass participation industry to say, how can we go and speak to government to get events happening? You took almost the reverse approach. You went to the industry recognizing the value and said, we need to get you collaborating, we need to have a peak body, we need to work together. I'd love to hear a little bit about that and what's kind of been happening prior to those 32 days of COVID free. What's life been like in Thailand?
Well, life in Thailand now is, I would say the level of confidence is getting higher and higher. Of course, the government is very precaution in the sense that they would love all the citizens to continue with the safeguarding issues, the masks and the hygienic personal safety matter. But again, I think in terms of the precaution actions towards COVID, I think Thailand has done pretty well. Like what you said, we are 32 days COVID free. And in that sense, I believe that the government has done their work. But again, when it comes to MICE, TCEB being the responsible agency, we need to be able to sort of push MICE forward. And we should not wait for COVID vaccine to be found. So I think it is legitimate for me to rally all the support that I can get from the industry. And because I'm from the industry myself, and therefore we are friends in a sense, and I told them that we have to come together and come up with hygiene discipline, which can be served as a guideline on how to run a safe and hygienic event. And then I use that as the guideline, as a measure to go and lobby the government to reopen events in Thailand, which is successful. Earlier on, the government said that events would be the last phase of the reopening sections. Now we push it back into the third and fourth phase, which is fine, and thanks the government to that. But when it comes to the business opportunity, I think I spent a reasonable amount of time every day to equip myself with the most current happenings around the world, not only to detect, but also to grasp market sentiment and also the new trends. So basically, I do read a lot, I talk a lot with my customers and also industry professionals. The whole idea is to understand the present scenario and to spot the trends so I can craft my supporting campaign to future-proof the event.
Well, that sounds amazing, and so again, I've worked with governments all over the world, and it's all about partnership, isn't it? And that's certainly been my experience. I love, as I was sharing with you before, I love coming to Thailand, such a beautiful country, being involved in
Right.
events there. You have so many stunning buildings, and your culture is amazing. We did the ASICS City Relay around the Royal Palace, and it's one of the most incredible events I've been involved in my 35 years in the industry. This nighttime event with the lights of the Royal Palace and just a really wonderful experience. And
Yeah.
I guess putting those events on isn't without challenges in any city that you're in. And I guess to get to where you are, to have got the government to say, let's go ahead, let's, albeit with some guidelines, as you mentioned, what have been some of the biggest challenges that you've gone through during this period, please, Nichapa?
I think, like every country else around the world, I think the key challenge is we don't know what would happen next because the situation keeps changing every day. So, but under TCEB hat, I would say that our biggest challenge is how can we have a quick wins so that we can support the whole ecosystem of mice until the proper treatment or vaccine is found. That's the key thing. The other thing is how can we come up with the proper measures? How can we work together with responsible or respective government agency in terms of health and safety issue to encourage the return to travel? Because mice can really depend on the traveling staff in order to bring all the people together. So the return to travel, the sooner the return to travel, the better for mice industry. And again, I think the last one is that the challenge would be that how can we learn from the lessons from COVID and how we can do better in the future so that we can sort of not to repeat our mistakes again, or how can we better safeguard ourselves and the industry better from now.
Yeah, it's a great point, isn't it? There's so many lessons to be had out of this, and one of the great positives, obviously, there's been many negatives around the world, but I see so many positives in terms of innovation, and the thing that I see the most is this collaboration, not only within countries but cross borders. People that are competitors saying how can we work together? Because it doesn't necessarily matter who's first, but if we can be first and we can have these successful events, it puts a blueprint out for others. So I'm guessing in that space you're going to start on a Thai-wide basis, so events starting to happen, people traveling from around Thailand, and I guess the bubble will then go a little bit more regional before it becomes fully international. Do you have any sense of what kind of time frame that might be in terms of some of the bigger events announcing that they are going to be coming back with significant numbers?
Well, right now, in terms of sustaining number of events or sustaining events in Thailand, out of when I talk about exhibition, let's talk about exhibitions first.
Yeah.
We have about 60 exhibitions, international exhibitions that TCEP have been supporting every year. This year, we can sustain 35, oh, I'm sorry, 45, while the rest has already postponed, if not cancelled. So these 45 events, some of them are consumer events,
Hmm.
some of them are B2B. But of course, we can spot the trend that the B2B events, the size would be smaller. The number of international participants, of course, if not all gone, then it would be very limited. So domestic will be key. However, in terms of consumer events, the size is still big, but under the hygiene discipline that we propose to the government, we also have to monitor and adhere to the safety and health issue from the Ministry of Health. And that means a certain number of physical distancing. For example, outdoor, it would be 4 square meters per person. Indoor, it could be around 2 square meters per person, and also the number of the overall participating in certain period of time in one venue will have to also be observed. And this, however, would give certain challenge to the organizers because they have to work around these rules and regulations. And once again, these rules and regulations would open the opportunity for us to innovate. So we can see a lot of new initiatives from the organizers just to make sure that they comply to the rules, the safety and hygiene rules, but once again, they use the opportunity to open and connect with their fan base. And to me, that is a great model, and also a great case study for everybody in the same industry to learn from, to adapt from, and maybe to start something new based from the current mistakes or the do's and don'ts that we can provide in running the event.
Yeah. And what about in the mass participation space? Have any of the the larger events announced a date for them taking place? Do you see you've got some wonderful flagship events that happen there. Is there any kind of, okay, we're going to have a few events from September or August, or any kind of timeline on that at this stage?
Well, the current plan is we will have another 3 marathon events in the fourth quarter of this year.
Uh-huh.
And they already plan for the new normal operations in order to gather all the fans and also observe the rules. We also have a listing of the leads from international events that they want to bring the international events to Thailand next year, and we are working on that. And yes, we have a few more in the pipeline, and we are working very closely with the organizers on how we can help them, support them, and also facilitate the connection and bridging the connection with the responsible ministry. For example, Ministry of Sport or Ministry of Health or Ministry of Culture, so that all together we can be a good Thai team, or we can be one team, just to make sure that we drive the event forward.
Sounds wonderful, and obviously a great leadership position taken there. And I'd love to get some of your insights in terms of leadership. Are there any particular leadership principles you apply, Nichapa, or any leaders that have taught you lessons in your career in the industry?
I think I have many teachers in my life. The past crises are also my teachers. So we learn a lot from the past crises that Thailand has been enduring or has been going through. But the best leadership advice that I always remember is have no regrets, which means that I have to make my everyday count, and I have to be a person of value to whatever project or whatever issues that I'm working on. At the end of the day, I just want to make sure that before I go to sleep, when I reflect on myself, I can tell myself that today is one heck of a day, one
Wow,
great day for me.
that's a wonderful leadership way to operate by. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I mean, it sounds also quite inspirational. And I'd love to end, as always, on an inspirational story. Have you got something that you'd like to share with us?
Um, I think my story in terms of inspirational would be by the time that we have to run the World Expo on horticulture. Starting from bidding and all that, the whole process is brand new, and Thailand is not so famous at that point of time. So we have to always go extra mile to give the right message at the right time and connect with the right people. But the lessons that I learned from that event, the World Expo on Horticulture, is that we can always change the world. And all the changes start with us and within us. So I also learned that we have to think big, because we can never go beyond what we think. So thinking could be a good blueprint and framework in our minds. And we have to be very passionate in what we do, because the passion that we have can really help us move us forward whenever we encounter any obstacle. We also have to act very boldly. Thailand is, under the radar at that point of time, and we have to do lots of things with passion and with gratitude to the country, and also to celebrate. It was the event to celebrate late King, King Rama IX, the late King. So we have that agenda. We have to act very boldly. We learn from it, and we take one step at a time. Yeah, so we start pretty small. But again, we never, quitting is not in our vocabulary. So we believe that we can do it. We can change the world. This is the right thing to do. And if what we are doing can be beneficial to the country, that is a responsibility and a duty to do so.
That's wonderful, and you know, so much achieved in those years, and such an inspiring country. It was one of the first countries I visited in Southeast Asia. I went to Phuket, and it was just, you know, the hospitality, the smiles of the people, and like you say, changing times all over the world. And I'm sure Thailand is going to change and evolve, but hopefully the people will never lose track of that amazing service, which is so world renowned in Thailand, and the beautiful smiles, and yeah, just wonderful. Saudi Cup, it's been so wonderful to speak to you, and I really appreciate you making your time.
Right. ขอบคุณมากค่ะ Thank you for having me. And
ขอบคุ
hope
ณครับ
to welcome you in person to Thailand again soon.
I really look forward to it. Thank you so much.
ค่ะ ขอบคุณค่ะ
ขอบ
สวัส
คุ
ดีค่ะ
ณครับ Thank you